Welcome to District Command Central, your go-to source for the latest news and updates on the Washington Commanders. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, so you never miss a play when the dust settled in overtime against the Denver Broncos. Washington Commanders head coach Dan Quinn found himself at a crossroads that would define not just the outcome of the game, but in many ways, the boldness of his coaching philosophy after seeing his team punch in a touchdown. Quinn faced a decision that any head coach in the NFL would recognize as high-stakes drama. Play it safe with the extra point and extend the fight, or take the gamble. Go for the two-point conversion and win the game on the spot. In a league where seconds can define legacies and hesitation can cost careers, Quinn didn't blink. He went for two, and while the result wasn't what he hoped for, the decision itself was a masterclass in calculated risk-taking. As team reporter Zach Selby highlighted, there was no pause. No second-guessing, no moment of doubt. Dan Quinn saw the path, knew the risks, and charged forward. Quarterback Marcus Mariota, who was tasked with executing the decisive play, confirmed that there was no ambiguity in the strategy. According to Tom Schad of the Washington Post, Mariota recognized immediately that the Commanders would go for two. As he dropped back in the pocket, he faced a blitz from Denver linebacker Nick Benito, who leapt and deflected the pass. The ball never had a chance. But the intention was clear. Quinn was willing to seize control of destiny, to decide the game with one bold stroke, rather than leave fate in the hands of the opponent. In a league that often rewards caution over courage, that choice alone is a statement about how Quinn views his role, not just as a strategist, but as a leader willing to embrace risk when it matters most. Understanding Quinn's reasoning requires a close look at the game situation. Denver had already demonstrated its ability to move the ball efficiently in overtime on their first overtime drive. The Broncos marched 76 yards in just 5 plays over 3 minutes, a display of offensive precision that underscored the danger of extending the game to another possession in such a scenario. Kicking an extra point to tie the game would have been a signal of caution, effectively handing momentum back to a 9-2 Denver team that had shown it could score quickly and decisively. Quinn's decision to go for two was not recklessness. It was an informed calculation rooted in both situational awareness and a deep understanding of his team's current standing, with the Commanders sitting at 3-8. The calculus was simple. Playing it safe wouldn't give them a real chance to win, while taking the risk offered a shot at glory. The contrast between the two teams couldn't have been starker. Washington, plagued by injuries and inconsistent play, had seen its season slip into a downward spiral. Key players like Jayden Daniels were sidelined, and questions about roster depth and future planning loom large. Meanwhile, Denver was the picture of efficiency and strength, a playoff-caliber squad with momentum on its side. In that light, Quinn's choice becomes not just a reflection of courage, but a recognition of reality. Sometimes the only way to assert control is to gamble everything in a single, decisive moment. Every play, every decision carries weight, but in overtime against a team like the Broncos, the stakes elevate to nearly existential levels. Even in failure, there's a narrative to be celebrated. The attempt itself, though unsuccessful, communicated a message to players, fans, and critics alike. Washington is a team that can confront adversity head-on, a squad willing to challenge the odds rather than passively hope for a miracle. Mariota's pass might have been deflected, but the story of the game isn't just about the outcome. It's about leadership, conviction, and the courage to define your own destiny. Even when the scoreboard seems merciless, Quinn's decisiveness underscores a philosophy increasingly rare in today's NFL, where coaches often default to convention and risk aversion, letting statistics and probabilities dictate actions rather than gut, vision, and the instinct to seize the moment. The broader implications of Quinn's decision also ripple beyond the game itself. For a franchise struggling to define an identity amid injuries, roster questions, and a challenging schedule, moments like this serve as touchstones for culture building. By choosing the two-point conversion, Quinn signals to his players that they are expected to rise to the occasion, to embrace pressure, and to fight for every possible victory even against seemingly insurmountable odds. The lesson isn't just about winning or losing in a single overtime period. It's about setting a standard for mindset and accountability, fostering a mentality that can endure the long, grueling NFL season and, potentially, reshape the team's trajectory in the coming years. Looking ahead to 2026, the Commanders face critical questions about their roster, strategy, and quarterback play. While Jayden Daniels' injuries complicate planning, and while Marcus Mariota's role may be debated, one thing is clear: the two-point attempt against Denver won't be a source of second-guessing. In a season marked by adversity, Quinn's boldness stands as a rare moment of clarity and purpose. Fans and analysts alike can dissect play calling, offensive schemes, and defensive alignments. But the overarching takeaway remains the same: in situations where the odds are stacked and conventional wisdom tempts hesitation, true leadership manifests in the courage to act decisively. In the end, the Commanders' loss to Denver might sting, the missed two-point conversion a point of frustration, but the narrative is richer than a simple win-loss tally. It's a story about bravery, about embracing pressure, and about understanding when the moment calls not for calculation, but for conviction. Dan Quinn's decision reflects a mindset that many coaches claim to possess, but few demonstrate in reality: the willingness to define the game on your own terms, to refuse to defer to the clock, the opponent, or circumstance. While the scoreboard reads a Denver victory, the takeaway for Washington is more profound, more enduring. Leadership, clarity, and courage are as valuable as any points on the board. And in that sense, the Commanders have much to build on even in defeat as the league looks forward. This decision serves as a microcosm of the evolving NFL landscape. Coaches are increasingly measured not only by their wins, but by their willingness to embrace strategic audacity. The decision to go for two in overtime against a superior team encapsulates that trend perfectly. It's about understanding context, assessing risk, and having the confidence to act decisively. For Quinn, it's a reaffirmation of philosophy, a bold statement that even in a losing season, the Commanders' approach can be proactive, fearless, and uncompromising. While the outcome wasn't what Washington wanted, the act itself elevates the conversation around coaching philosophy, game theory, and the psychology of high-stakes decision-making in professional football. In conclusion, while many will remember the deflection by Nick Bonitto, the blitz, and the ultimate defeat, the deeper story lies in the choice itself. Dan Quinn's decision to go for two was rooted in a calculated understanding of risk, situational awareness, and a refusal to yield control to the opponent. It represents a philosophy that values courage over caution, action over hesitation, and leadership over conformity. In a season that has challenged the Commanders at every turn, that moment stands as a testament to the type of mindset the team needs to cultivate as it looks toward 2026. And while fans may grieve the lost opportunity, analysts may debate the mechanics of the play, and Mariota may replay the pass in his mind, the underlying truth remains: bold decisions define legacies, and in that sense, Dan Quinn's choice to go for two was as instructive as any touchdown, interception, or field goal could ever be. If you're enjoying the coverage, make sure to smash that like button and drop a comment with your thoughts on the Commanders' latest moves. We want to hear from you. The atmosphere inside the Commanders' locker room has reportedly reached a boiling point, and whispers from multiple sources suggest that things might be unraveling faster than anyone could have anticipated. Rumors have been swirling for weeks about tension mounting behind the scenes, but nothing seemed to capture the collective attention of fans and analysts quite like the supposed statements from quarterback Jayden Daniels. According to insiders, Daniels allegedly told teammates and staff that he was tired of pretending, a remark that has ignited a firestorm of speculation about just what has been happening inside one of the NFL's most closely watched locker rooms. While official statements have been sparse, and the team continues to maintain a veneer of composure in public, sources hint that the reality is far more chaotic. Conversations between players, coaches, and management are reportedly strained, and the very fabric of the team's camaraderie seems to be under threat. People who have had access to practices say that Daniels' energy has shifted dramatically in recent weeks, from focused and competitive to visibly frustrated, often walking off the field during drills or speaking in tones that leave no room for misinterpretation. It's the kind of tension that can ripple outward, affecting not just the performance on the field, but also the locker room culture, which has long been considered the backbone of any NFL team. There's a sense, according to multiple insiders, that Daniels has reached a point of no return, where patience is thin and frustration is thick, and that this moment could mark a turning point in his relationship with the coaching staff and, more importantly, the team itself. Sources close to the situation suggest that the issues are not purely about play calling or game strategy, although those elements are reportedly part of the mix. Rather, the concern seems to center around deeper More personal frustrations that Daniels has allegedly carried with him since the start of the season. The quarterback's comment about being tired of pretending is being interpreted by some as a sign of dissatisfaction not just with the tactical approach of the team, but also with the internal politics, the management of player relationships, and possibly even the way the organization has handled certain off-field matters, according to insiders. These kinds of tensions can fester quietly for weeks or months, before suddenly erupting into something undeniable. And it seems that this might be one of those moments. People familiar with the locker room environment suggest that a combination of high expectations, mounting pressure from fans and media, and perceived inconsistencies in coaching decisions may have contributed to the breaking point. Some teammates are reportedly sympathetic to Daniels, understanding the burden of carrying a franchise quarterback's responsibilities in a climate that often feels unsupportive or disconnected from the realities of the player's experience. Others, however, are said to be frustrated themselves, caught in the crossfire of a situation where communication has reportedly begun to falter and trust is under strain. There are murmurs that meetings meant to address issues have instead exposed rifts, with discussions veering into tense exchanges that only serve to heighten the sense of unease. The dynamics in the locker room are, by all accounts, complicated and layered, with personalities, ambitions, and loyalties all intersecting in ways that make simple solutions elusive. Adding another layer to the speculation, some sources suggest that Daniels' frustration is also linked to his vision for the team's future, which insiders claim may be at odds with the approach of the coaching staff. While the Commanders have maintained that their goal is stability and a cohesive strategy moving forward, there are hints that Daniels envisions a more aggressive, more flexible style of play, something that clashes with the current structure in place. Reports indicate that he has voiced his opinions during private team meetings, and that those comments have not always been well received, contributing to a growing sense of isolation. Observers familiar with NFL locker room dynamics note that when a quarterback feels alienated or constrained, it can have far-reaching consequences, impacting not only the quarterback's own performance, but the morale and cohesion of the entire squad. The narrative emerging from these reports paints a picture of a locker room in which patience is wearing thin, where conversations are becoming increasingly loaded with tension, and where even small disagreements can escalate quickly. Sources close to the players suggest that some veterans are trying to mediate, attempting to calm the waters and restore some semblance of trust. But the friction between Daniels and certain coaching figures appears to be more entrenched than ever. Meanwhile, the media and fanbase have been quick to pick up on the cracks, with social media speculation fueling the narrative that the team is in crisis, while external observers often have only fragments of information. The intensity of the coverage itself can exacerbate internal pressures, creating a feedback loop in which rumors, leaks, and commentary all contribute to an atmosphere of heightened anxiety. Insiders caution that the public perception of chaos may be only partially accurate, but there is broad consensus among those with inside knowledge that something significant is happening behind closed doors. Some analysts suggest that Daniels' remarks about not pretending could signal a breaking point, a moment in which the quarterback is no longer willing to conform to expectations he feels are limiting, and where honesty, blunt and unfiltered, takes precedence over diplomacy. That kind of candor, while potentially liberating for the individual, can shake the foundations of team unity, especially in an environment where communication and alignment are critical. According to some reports, the coaching staff is aware of the situation and is considering strategies to manage the fallout, but there is little clarity on how effective those efforts might be, given the apparent depth of the frustrations. Adding intrigue to the story, rumors suggest that there could be ripple effects beyond the immediate locker room. Scouts, front office executives, and even rival teams are said to be observing the situation closely, evaluating whether the unrest could impact Daniels' performance, the team's strategy, or even trade considerations down the line. Conversations in the NFL world reportedly range from cautious curiosity to outright speculation about potential shifts in leadership, player movement, or strategic recalibrations. While nothing is confirmed, the very fact that multiple independent sources are reporting similar observations lends weight to the idea that this is more than just locker room grumbling. It could be a genuine turning point for the franchise. Those familiar with Daniels' temperament describe him as fiercely competitive and deeply committed to his craft. suggesting that any tension is rooted in a desire to achieve excellence rather than petty disputes. However, the intensity of his feelings also means that when lines are crossed, or when communication breaks down, the resulting conflicts can be highly charged and public in their impact. In this context, his statement about being tired of pretending is more than just a soundbite. It is being interpreted as a clear signal that the status quo may no longer be sustainable. The narrative emerging from these leaks paints a complex picture: a young quarterback at a crossroads, a locker room divided between empathy and frustration, a coaching staff trying to maintain order, and a fanbase hungry for answers. People with knowledge of the team culture emphasize that moments like this can be pivotal, shaping not only the immediate performance of the team, but also its longer-term trajectory. Whether the situation resolves quietly behind the scenes, escalates into something more public, or triggers structural changes within the organization remains uncertain. What is clear, however, is that the Commanders are navigating a period of unprecedented tension, with multiple stakeholders invested in the outcome. Some teammates are said to be holding informal meetings to recalibrate expectations and mend communication channels, while others are reportedly distancing themselves, wary of getting caught in internal conflicts that could reflect poorly on them individually. The quarterback's stance, as reported, is unyielding. There is a sense that Daniels is willing to speak his mind openly, even if it risks alienating those around him. The situation has all the hallmarks of a classic locker room drama: unspoken grievances becoming visible, high stakes amplifying emotions, and personalities clashing in ways that defy simple resolution. Thanks for tuning into District Command Central. Make sure to subscribe and follow us for all the Commanders news you need. Until next time, keep the faith and hail to the Commanders.